What are those first few things that you should be scanning for in the first 30 seconds to 60 seconds once you're inside of a room?
Energy. I feel and read rooms with energy. And air is made up of energy, right? It's all particulate matter, atoms. Being able to enter a room and let your energy speak for itself before you even open your mouth.
It's time to mind your manners. Sara Jane Ho is a Harvard Business School grad, Netflix star, and manners expert.
Hey guys, it's me, Sara Jane Ho.
Sara Jane Ho left Wall Street, moved to Beijing with broken Mandarin, and built China's first finishing school from nothing before Netflix turned her life into a show. She has now taught social intelligence to thousands of people across two of the world's most powerful cultures. What she knows about how people actually read each other will make you rethink every room you've ever walked into.
Where in China, when you toast, you don't raise your glass high like you do in America. You actually lower your glass. It's a race to see who can reach the bottom of the glass. So if you look at President Xi Jinping of China, when he toasts other foreign leaders, whether it's the late Queen or Biden or Trump, in the photos, you'll always see that his glass is kept a little lower than the other person's. It's out of a sign of respect. I don't think I'm above you. And it was really last year when I just completely accepted myself, loved myself, dissolved my ego. And then you realize people or things that come into your life are just pure joy or love. And you have no expectations of other people. And everything you rely on is inside of you, right? Then there's no external validation. It all just comes from within. And I see everything as a gift. You can be inspired from many things and many people. You can be inspired by people much younger than you, much older than you. But the most important thing is really to see everything as a gift. And even if it seems like, oh, it's something bad in the moment, you'll realize it is a gift because that bad thing maybe led to something that actually protected you from something.
You know, most people spend a lot of their careers optimizing their health, their mindset, but they never really learn how to read people or connect with people. What do you think the cost is of optimizing so far in their career and the other things, but not necessarily the social fluency part of their lives?
I actually think that, of course, there are people who are brilliant and have no social skills, and some, are very successful in the traditional sense. But what makes us human at the end of the day is a sense of belonging. And to have a sense of belonging, you need to feel accepted as part of a community or part of different communities. And if you don't feel that, there's actually research that has come out saying that if you feel isolated as a human being from other peer groups, the damage it does to you and the onset of, it actually shortens your lifespan. That's what it does. So, I think it's really critical, and it is what makes us human.
And how would you define social fluency? Because I guess people hear that word and they think, I guess you're a good speaker or you're good with people, but does it go beyond that? How would you define what social fluency actually means?
Yeah, so I talk about social fluency in my etiquette book, Mind Your Manners. And I guess, when I was raised, my mother when I was very young, always said, live like a local. And so no matter where we were, if I was in Exeter, New Hampshire for boarding school, or we were on vacation in some, foreign country, if ever, I had a question or this or that, my mom would say, well, what would a local do? Do what a local would do. And so to me, social fluency actually, it's more about adjusting yourself ever so slightly to fit the group or country or language or setting that you're in. Not saying changing your personality. No, it's just micro adjustments. And that makes other people around you feel at ease. And once you put other people around you at ease, then you feel at ease. Right? Then you feel like, and that goes back to that sense of human belonging.
Right. So it's not necessarily how you're portraying yourself, it's the connection that you have with others.
Right, it's being fluent in the language of being social. To me, I never saw etiquette as something formal and stuffy. I always saw it as putting other people around you at ease.
Right. And I think there's certain people, I would put myself in that bucket as well, where in environments that you control, perhaps you have social fluency, but perhaps on other situations, you're not sure exactly how to act, right? So there's different categories of social fluency. I would imagine there's ones around your career, there's ones around dating and relationships, family, different cultures. And I guess it's easy to put yourself into one social mode and kind of apply what you've learned in all of these different situations. Part of social fluency, I would imagine, is learning how to read the room in different situations and adapt to it.
Yeah. So, if you think about even amongst our day, depending on the different groups of people we're with, we automatically have different selves. We have different selves, and our different selves come out in different scenarios, right? The way we are with our lover is different from how we'd be with a colleague, how we'd be with our children. And with social fluency, I talk about also microcultures in my book. Microcultures, you're actually, even in one company, there can be different microcultures. Finance and accounting, they could be more shy and conservative, right? Marketing could be more aggressive, right? So different departments, even if in finance and investment bank, right? If you're a fixed income salesperson, you're usually speaking a couple languages and you're attractive, right? If you're M&A or if you're a trader, there are different stereotypes, right, of that. So when I talk about sort of social fluency, it's really just about, okay, we do know automatically, actually subconsciously we're already adjusting ourselves anyway, but then how to be conscious about it, right? How to elevate your consciousness and how to have that heightened self-awareness to know, oh, okay, I'm in such and such a country now with such and such people, or I'm with an older generation, I should be more respectful, right, etc.
How do you develop that heightened self-awareness? 'Cause that's the key part.
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of it, I mean, there's nature and nurture. A lot of the times, especially when you're young, it really comes from your mother. The mother is the single most influential person in a child's upbringing. But of course, everything comes from the parents, and that's why upbringing is so important. And I have to say, actually, when I was a daughter and I had my mother, and she was strict, especially when it came to etiquette and manners and being polite and having common courtesy. She would explain a lot of things to me. So she would, if I was doing something incorrectly, she would explain why I should do it correctly. And I've realized for a lot of people, even etiquette like table manners, right? When somebody does something wrong or they're not quite sure which fork or knife to use first, it's just because nobody showed them how. And so it's the same thing with self-awareness. If in education, if nobody shows you how, nobody shows you another way, then your perspective isn't widening, right? And now that I myself am actually a mother, I have a stepson, and I spend so much time explaining to him when we're a house guest in friends' homes, right? I've noticed he doesn't really have the awareness. He's missing some social cues. Or for example, as a house guest, you should have an extra heightened level of awareness to be a good house guest, right? To make sure that when you leave your room, it's as clean as, if not cleaner than, when you arrived. That you're helping wash the dishes, right? And so he was doing things like he was leaving his dish in the sink, and so I had to say, hey, Jeff, that's not okay when you're a house guest, especially when, our friends in this house, like, they don't have help in this house, and it's just us and them. So if you're leaving your dirty dishes in the sink, it means that you're not showing them respect, because it means you expect them to clean up after you, right? And he's 19 years old now, and I really had to be on his case about that. But then I explained to him and he understood, and then he was very good about it.
Right. So with Jeff, obviously he's got a great mother.
Stepmother who's got
was pretty much at the top of these fields, specifically with etiquette, right? You call yourself Miss Manners with a touch of Machiavelli, which I'd love to get into. But for someone that hasn't had that upbringing and they're 30, 40 now, and they just want to develop more self-awareness in general, does that just come from making mistakes and having these different experiences, or have you been able to cultivate that for others? Can you advise some people how to do that?
Yeah. Well, making mistakes is the best way to learn, right? The school of hard knocks. I've made so many mistakes and I continue to make mistakes. And I think the most important thing is to really learn from them. So my mom used to say, there are 3 methods of learning things. The first type of person learns from others' mistakes. The second type of person learns from their own mistakes. And the third type doesn't even learn from their own mistakes.
I've been there.
We've all been there in different aspects, right?
Sure.
So I think step 1 is the intention to be more self-aware. That actually is the hardest step, right? Once you already have that intention, then you're way ahead, right? And then the second step is to I mean, I'm an inquisitive person. I like to ask questions. So if I don't understand why something's a certain way, or if I'm not sure, if I'm venturing in a new industry or a new setting or a new environment or a new country, I'm the first person to say, how is it done in this country?